Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about Amazon EC2 instances. We are going to see how to launch EC2 instance using Linux and Windows, and we'll see how we can connect to it using different options like SSH, RDP and third-party tools like Putty. So EC2 is like one of the most popular AWS services. So basically it lets you provision virtual machines in the cloud, and there are a lot of different options or different machine types that I can provision instantly with just a few button clicks. So without wasting much time, let me just log into the AWS console. So go to aws.amazon.com. So if you don't have an AWS account, you can sign up for an account, and if you sign up for the first time, you're going to get some services which you can use free for 1 year. So since I already have an account, I just sign into the console. So after signing in, I'll be presented in the AWS management console. So if you see the console, it is listing down all the services that are available. So if you see, EC2 is inside the compute section as it's a compute service, and if I want, I can also search for it. So now I'm in an EC2 management console, and so in the dashboard you can see it shows the number of running instances and the number of all the instances that are there in different states. So for creating an instance, I just click on launch instance. So the first thing I need to do is select an AMI. So AMI is nothing but an Amazon machine image. So basically it specifies the software and operating system that I want to run on my virtual machine. So if you see, I have different options. I have an Amazon Linux 2 AMI. I can install the Red Hat, Ubuntu or Microsoft Windows Server as well. So for this demo, I'm going to select Amazon Linux 2 AMI as it is free tier eligible also. So let me just click on select. So the next thing I have to do is choose an instance type. So basically in instance type, we are selecting like how much powerful we want our virtual machines to be. So like there are different type of instance families out there. Like if you see, we have T2.micro instance. So it gives us around 1 virtual CPU and 1 unit of memory. And if you see, if I go down and I see different type of instance, so I can have as much as 96 virtual CPUs and 192 GB of RAM also. So for this demo, we are going to select T2 Micro as it is free tier eligible. So if you are trying on your node also, just make sure you select an instance that is free tier eligible, so you don't up paying any amount. Next one, I have to configure the instance details. So most of the options I leave it as default. So the number of instance is 1. So I have to select the network inside which I want to launch the EC2 instance. So for this, I just select the default instance. Then I select the subnet. I can select the subnet I want, or I can give no preference. So it will launch it in the default subnet. So currently, as you can see, right now I'm in the Northern Virginia region. So like when I launch an instance, so it will be basically inside a region where I have to launch it. So by default, you can see Northern Virginia is selected, and you can select any region that you want which is nearer to your location for low latency. So I just select in auto assign public IP. I use subnet setting. So if it is inside a public subnet, it will get public IP assigned to it, and rest of the settings I'll just leave it as blank. Then I go to next, add storage. So basically add storage lets me add some virtual hard disk to the machine. So by default, if you see, I have a root volume attached which has around 8 GB in size. So if I want, I can add a new volume also. I can specify the size here. So for this one, I just go with the root volume, and I have a delete on termination flag checked. So that means like once my instance is terminated, the EBS volume will get terminated along with it. And for encryption, I just keep it as not encrypted. Next, I can add tags also. So tags are nothing but key value pairs which I can add. So it is good. So like I can give it a name, instance, and next I have to configure security group for the instance. So security group is nothing but sort of a virtual firewall. So basically using security groups, I can specify what type of inbound traffic is permitted. So like what IP address can access my instance. So if you see by default, I have enabled in the inbound rule, I have an SSH. So that means SSH traffic will be allowed on this instance. And this is a port number on which SSH runs, that is 22. In here I can specify what IP address I want. So I can give my IP. So by default it will take my current IP and it will only permit this IP address to access this instance. Or I can give a custom IP range also. Or I can select anywhere also. That means all the IPs can access this instance. So if you see, I'm also getting a warning key, rules with allow all IP address to access your instance. So for this demo, let's keep it as anywhere. And now this is just showing me the options that I've selected. So I can just click on launch instance. Yeah, so when we are launching an instance, so I have to select an existing key pair, or I can create a new key pair also. But just make sure whatever key pair you are creating, you just save it somewhere and don't lose it, because if you lose it, then you won't be able to log into that instance. So let me give a name. Give it my training key pair, and I just download the key pair to my machine. So the key pair is downloaded. It is a file with .pem extension. And now I'll click on launch instance. So if you see now it will show me the instances are now launching. So I can just click on view instance. So if I see, if you see, the instance state is currently pending. So it might take a couple of minutes to launch an instance. And it will show you the details of the instance, like what's the instance type you selected, on which availability zone it has been launched. And basically, since I mentioned in the tags the name tag, so it is showing that name which I mentioned here. So this means that, yeah. So now you can see the instance state has changed to running. That means our instance is now running and I can connect to it. So yeah, to connect to an instance, like you have an option here, you have the connect button. So I just select my instance and click on connect. So I have different ways I can connect to my instance. So one option is the Ec2 Instance Connect. So this is a new option that has been provided by Amazon recently. So using Ec2 Instance Connect, I don't need to install anything on my machine. So like when I click on connect, it will start a terminal session on the instance in the browser based. So I don't need anything installed on my machine. So it's a very good option if you don't want the hassle of installing anything on the machine. So if you see, it shows the public IP address of the machine and the username using which I can log into my instance. So like currently the username is ec2-user. So that is the default username that comes with the Amazon Linux 2 AMI, which we selected by launching an instance. So I just click on connect now. So if you see, it has launched a new browser window. You can see I am connected to my EC2 instance now. So this is the most easiest way you can connect to an instance. You don't need to install anything. You don't need to like specify the key pair and all. So by default, it takes it and it is directly connected to my machine. And this is, if you see, like it has mentioned EC2 user at IP and this IP address range. So this is the private IP that has been assigned to my instance. Yeah. So we'll also see how to run a few commands. Okay, so like now I'm connected to my instance. So let me just do sudo su. So I'm just logged in as the root user, super user, as you can see. So let me just install Apache server on this machine. So I'll just do so I'm installing the Apache server on this machine. So I can see we can just hit the server and see what the response comes. So the Apache server installation is complete. Now I'll just start the Apache server. So the server is now started. So I can just, if I want to access the web server, what I can do is I can just take the public IP address name and I can just click on it. But now you see it's not responding anything. So So it will just keep on trying to connect, and ultimately it is going to time out. And the reason for that is, so suppose I go to my instance. So if you remember in the security groups, so this is the security group launch wizard 2 that we created with this. So just open this security group. So if you see, like we have mentioned, only SSH type traffic is allowed to access this instance, and our Apache server is running on port 80, and currently our security groups only allow port 22 to access the instance. So what we need to do is we can just edit the inbound rules. So I'll add a new rule, so I can mention HTTP, so that runs on port 80, and I select anywhere for the time being, and I just save the rules. So the good thing is that any changes I made to security groups, that is reflected instantly. So now when I go here, so if you see, now the Apache test page has loaded. So I'm able to access the server on port 80 using HTTP commands. And like one more thing we can do is, so I can just create a file that will be served by Apache server. So I'm creating an index.html file which will have the text the host name is, and it will print the host name of the current server. And since I'm running an Apache server, so I'll put it in the index.html file inside var www.html directory. So the file is now created. So if I just refresh this page now, so you can see it is showing the host name is 172.3.1. So that is nothing but the private IP address of this machine. So if I see the instance, let me just expand this here. So if you see, it has this private public IP, and it has the 172.3.1 private IP also, and the private IP is being displayed here. So we just saw how to connect to an instance using Instance Connect, and how we can run the commands also. So let's see the other ways in which I can connect. So currently right now I'm running on Windows 10. So in Windows 10 you have the SSH option enabled by default in most of the cases. So what I can do is, like, I'll open a command prompt, and this is the command I can use to connect to my instance. Like I can give ssh-i, and I have to specify the key pair which I downloaded earlier, and I'll mention the public DNS name or the IP address of the machine. So let me go to the directory in which my key pair is present. So in the download directory you can see my training key pair is present. So I just paste this command here. I get some warning, so I just give yes. So now you can see it is just connected to my instance. So this is another way I can do. So I can disconnect from this session here. And so suppose if you type SSH on your Windows machine, and you get a some error saying command not found, then probably you don't have it installed on your machine. So other thing we'll see is how we can use a third-party tool called Putty also to connect to it. So to use Putty, we can just download and install it. You just go to putty.org, and you can download the Windows installer or Unix installer. So based on the 32-bit or 64-bit operating system you have, you can just download the installer and install it on your machine. So right now I have it installed on my machine. So yeah, before using Putty, so what Putty does it doesn't recognize the PEM file. So basically first what we need to do is convert this PEM file to a Ppk file which Putty recognizes. So when you install Putty, you will get a tool called Putty Gen. So just run this tool. So what this tool does, it will convert your Pem file to a Ppk type file. So first what I need to do is I just load an existing private key file. So in the downloads, just select all files. So this is the key pair which I downloaded right now. I just select this file here and we'll get a message saying successfully imported. Just click on OK. And then I just save this private key. So when I save this key, you'll just get a message saying, are you sure you want to save this key without a passphrase? So I don't need a passphrase right now, so I just click on yes. Okay. I just mention my give it a name, my training key pair or Ppk. So I have a Ppk file which I just now created. So now what I can do is I can just run Putty. So here you need to specify the host name. The host name you can get from, so this is your basically your host name. So I can give IP address also, or I can give the whole host name. And before that I also need to specify the user. So I can mention EC2 user at the rate of. I'm just connecting as EC2 user. And then I go to this, click on this plus icon beside the SSH name. And I go to the auth section. I select the auth section. And then there is an option of private key file for authentication. So I just browse and I just select the Ppk file we just generated using PuttyGen. I select this file now and click on open. So now you just get some message security alert. Just click on yes. And now if you see, I'm logged into my instance, so I'm connected it using Putty now. And suppose if I took I'm just hitting the local host. If you see, it is also printed the host name is, so whatever I got from the browser, the same thing I'm getting from here also. So this is how you can connect to your instance using Putty. I just disconnect this instance now. So right now if you see, my instance is running. So suppose I want to delete this instance, so what I can do is I can just select my instance. So in the instance state option, I'll get different options. I can reboot my instance, just restart it. I can stop the instance. So when I stop the instance, I won't get charged for that instance. And if I want to permanently delete the instance, I just click on terminate instance. So now as we saw, we have connected to this instance. So now I can just delete the same. So just click on terminate instance. And I click on terminate. So you get a message saying successfully terminated, and you can see the instance state is now shutting down, and once it shuts down, it will just get terminated. And if you remember, while creating an instance and while adding the EBS volume, we specified the volume to be delete on termination, so that virtual hard disk which I attached to this instance will also get terminated along with it. Let's see how to launch a Windows based instance. So I'll go to launch instance here. So instead of Amazon Linux to AMI, I'll just select Windows Server 2019 base AMI, as it is also free tier eligible. I just select it. The instance type, I'll keep it as T2 micro. Instance details, I keep it as default. And in the storage, the root volume is there, is 30 GB in size. Delete on termination is checked, so we'll keep the default ones. The tags, let's add name, my win instance. So for security group, I'll create a new security group, launch wizard 3. And yeah, for Windows instance, we have to RDP or remote desktop into that machine. And since RDP runs on port 3389, I'm just allowing RDP access to this machine, and from all the IP address for the time being. So and let's click on review and launch. Now we just launch this instance. So again I have to select a key pair which I can use. So let's select my training key pair which we created earlier while creating an Linux instance. So I just click on I acknowledge and click on launching the instance. The instance is now being launched. So instance status pending. So it may take a few minutes for this instance to start. So just wait for a few minutes. At the time I just pause this recording. So my instance is now running. So let's connect to this Windows instance. Just select the instance and click on connect. And for connecting to the Windows instance, I need a RDP client or remote desktop. So I can just download the RDP file from here. And for connecting to Windows instance, I need a username and a password. So by default, if you see, the username is mentioned here, which I can use. So that is the administrator. And I can get the password by clicking on the get password option. So now for getting the password, I have to upload the key pair which I selected while launching this instance. So that will be used for decrypting the password. So the key pair was my training key pair. So I just browse and select my training key pair and click on decrypt password. So you should see the password is now decrypted and it is available here. So now I can just download the RDP file. Let me just click on it and click on connect. So you can just copy the password and I just paste it. Click on yes. So now if you see, I'm logging to my Windows instance as an administrator. This is just doing up some initialization. So I'm connected to my Windows 10 machine now. Let's just give it a minute for it to start. And yeah, you can see now I'm connected to the Windows instance. So I can just go to the my computer option. If you see, I have a local disk attached that was 30 GB which I selected during launching the instance. And similarly I can install I have full control over this machine, so if I want I can install IIS also on this. And in desktop also you are getting some options like what's the host name of the machine, the public and private IP the machine has, the instance size which I used, and all of it. So let me just open server manager and we'll see how we can quickly install IIS and just try to hit the server and see whether we are getting the page or not. So in the server manager, I just select add roles and features. Okay, it might take a while for this one to run, so just wait for a few moments. So now we are in the add roles and features wizard. So I click on next. So I'll select role based or feature based installation. In the server selection, I just specify the same machine. Now so we have to select roles and all. I just select web server IIS here. Just select add features. Click on next. leave it as default. Just click on next. So I'll keep all these options as default for now. And just click on install. So if you see, the installation has started. Let's just give it a few moments. In the meanwhile, just pause this recording. So as we can see, the installation is now complete. So I can just close this. Let me just come out of the remote desktop. Let's try to hit the server now. I can give the IP address, or I can give the public DNS name. So once again we see nothing is happening, it is just keep on trying to connect, and the reason for this is the same as last one. So if I go to my instance and go to the security groups, go to launch wizard 3. You see, right now only RDP access is allowed on this server, and we need to enable HTTP access. So just remember, like, whenever you get some sort of a timeout issue when trying to connect to your instance or anything installed on it, then probably it will always be to do with your security group settings. So just remember, when you get a timeout, just check your security group rules to see whether they are correct or not. So just add a rule and an HTTP rule on port 80. I just select anywhere, click on save, and security group is now edited. So just refresh this page, and now you can see you're getting the by default IIS page. So we have seen in this video, we have seen how to connect to a Linux machine, how to connect to a Windows machine, how to use Putty or your by default command line SSH command in Windows 10 to connect to your instance. So thanks for watching this video. So if you like this video, just remember to subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting other videos on different topics like security groups, EBS, AMIs, load balancing and all. Thank you for watching.